Bozja and any and all content like it are officially dead. I've done all of the relics through the years, from the original maddening Atma grind to the non-stop grinding of Aetherochemical Research Facility, or so-called ARF, until you barf for poetic tomestones for Heavensward relics. Largely for many, that is not a figure of speech. Then they shook up the system with Stormblood's Eureka and Bozja and Shadowbringers, and for all the flack that it did get, I still preferred that content over endlessly grinding fates I've already farmed into the ground and back, from endlessly spamming dungeons that are frankly boring and provide no challenge. It's extremely repetitive and extremely boring after the initial burst of excitement and the novelty of starting a brand new relic. If you can call dungeons that we've already ran so many times novel. I will be honest, dungeons in this game are too easy, and it's exactly why I've asked for more Mythic Plus style dungeon content for years now. Many years I've been asking it ever since I stepped foot into Mythic Plus in World of Warcraft. I'm honestly thrilled that we have Criterion and variant dungeons coming. I know, not think, I know that they're going to be adding a lot to the game we've been missing. While it is relevant, let's get out of that rabbit hole. Heavensward and Realm Reborn relics were based largely off of mass grinding, and I truly do mean mass grinding of tomestones, usually poetics, fates, tons of custom and often very expensive custom crafted items or very hard to collect items. I'd argue very well as someone who has actually beaten the pavement and done all the relics, I'd argue that the Shadowbringers relic series was the easiest by far of on-content relic series that we have had in all of Final Fantasy XIV. But people who hated Bozja would say that I'm lying, and you'd think that it wasn't a grind and I'm just stupid. My response is to look immediately towards Heavensward relics. Each of these items here represents a step for a relic. These prices, however, are represented of the nerfed into the dirt, literally multiple expansions later prices of the items. I'm going to elaborate there by talking about one step, just one on the long chain of steps there for the Heavensward relic, which is called the Umbright step. The Umbright step, which was about 70 to 75 Umbright per relic that you wanted to complete. These Umbright originally cost 300 poetic tomestones per Umbright, meaning that 70 Umbright would run you about 21,000 poetics. 21,000, or taking that 21,000 number and dividing it by 150, which is the number of tomestones that you get from one run of Aetherochemical Research Facility, that would land you at about 140 runs of Aetherochemical Research Facility for this single step for a single relic. I was not joking when I said ARF until you barf. This was very demanding. People are going to retort saying, well, Bozja was somehow worse. Oh, so you just think grinding out that many poetics is easy? Not boring, not monotonous, not the same thing over and over again. Let's explore that a bit. So Expert Roulette gives you absolutely no poetics and leveling gives you no poetics, meaning that you're left doing older content and not using it to level jobs. And leveling not giving you any kind of sucks here, but if you look very carefully at content, you're gonna see even the leveling dungeons themselves. Like take level 53 to level 65, I'd run She Sway of the Violet Tides from Stormblood. That's very good experience for leveling. No poetics are gonna be obtained from completing that dungeon, so you can't double dip to level here, which now I'm gonna turn around and pivot around and say that was one of the biggest perks of Eureka and Bozja, especially Bozja. I literally on my channel have evidence of me leveling all of my jobs to level 90 in Bozja in record time. I don't think I was the world first, but you know what, I goddamn gave everyone a run for their money. So we can use Eureka, we can use Bozja to level and to work on the cool glamour. No, I'm not kidding either. I literally have that on my channel history, and it shows all my jobs leveled to 90 there, and it was bar none the fastest method. Nothing else came close when I ran everything. But now let's get back to those 21,000 poetics for a single step and for one relic. How do you propose that you farm this out efficiently? I gave my ideas earlier, a little bit of a spoiler alert I should have given earlier, but considering main scenario roulette gives 50 poetics for running it, and is no longer Netflix and chill for the record, which a lot of people were relying on for the tombstone grind in the past, which I should add, I do still think is healthier for the game and more interesting for newer players. I wouldn't go back on it. But these things do add up to making it more difficult to get poetics, significantly harder than Netflix and Praetorium spam all night long, which me and many others definitely did. How many TV show seasons did I get through doing that? How much did I code when I did that? Honestly, too much. But dragging us back to the realities is the best way to farm poetics in large quantities is at current what I have seen, what I have ran the numbers on, is Aetherochemical Research Facility at 150 tomestones per. Undeniably, Blue Mage will be a massive asset here. People will tell me that I didn't practically beg them to level a Blue Mage basically every 4 months on my channel because something big gets released, and then I get told, you didn't give us a heads up. I am going to bang on my desk. Well, I would, but it's like 3 a.m. But level Blue Mage now. You have been warned. I have literally said it now. It's likely we're going to be doing that. I'm currently placing my bets on Blue Mage ARF until you barf, just like we did in Heaven's Ward, being the best Poetics grind. Okay, so Poetics problem solved. Great, awesome. Now we can move on, right? No. No. Now, Umbrite had a second half to get that same Umbrite step where you also needed to collect the exact same number, 70 to 75, of an item called Crystal Sands. This had many methods to obtain it, but the best among them was very difficult or very time-gated heavily. Two methods that I recommend that I used myself were Leave Quest Spam for Amber and Case Filekin, super low RNG and time-gated heavily, and the other method was fishing for endless hours and then trading them in. So if you don't enjoy fishing, which is most players, and that probably sounded horrendous, but that I know very few people that are like, yeah, I want to just sit and fish for hours and hours and hours. And I'm not talking ocean fishing here, guys, but it was, in my experience, far better and far more efficient than other methods, and that's what actually forced me to get into fishing. I know talking about some deep lore here, but I never really wanted to touch fishing before that, and the relic grind kind of forced me to. But oh, that was just Heaven's Ward, right? Surely that was a one-off, right? The answer is no. In A Realm Reborn, we had what was called the Atma grind, just to ask any player from the back and grab the popcorn as they recount their experience from back in the day before the nerfs. It was quite something, and I'm not even trying to cherry pick my examples I'm bringing up in this video. There were steps I personally considered worse or more tedious or more boring. Try light farming back in the day off of the primetime hours, so when the party finders don't have like anyone running it. Even on primetime, it was just spamming the same raid over and over again. It was very monotonous. Now let's start to transition into the conclusion by saying all of that is extremely old content, and worse yet, it is extremely easy and it's not stimulating content. Now, if I'm asked to be candid, I cannot tell you that I'm excited to run Aetherochemical Research Facility on Blue Mage or grind Fates also on Blue Mage for days on end, because that's what it will be boiling down to. Which really also now transitions into the conclusion with me saying, was Eureka perfect? Absolutely not, definitely not. I'm not saying that, but what it was it was different, it was unique, it had a lot of challenges to it. I will never forget the time that I first knocked out Pazuzu or Penny or the massive Cassie Fate, and the genuine difficulty of content and navigating around. It was a completely different world to the fairly extremely cushy content experience that we do have in general. The Essence Arsenal is still ran all the time on Aether. Heck, you didn't even need to clear BA to get to the final stage of the relics or the armor. But further from that, both Bozja and Eureka featured builds and the ability to customize your character, and I loved that. That was so fun to me. It was something completely removed from Final Fantasy XIV. Do I think that I want a talent tree system in the main game? No. There's a lot of experience for World of Warcraft where you get cookie cutter builds. My point is no. But I really enjoyed the builds and seeing how far I could break the game and push my damage in this custom relic mode. I enjoyed it so much that I practiced what I preached. I ran Delirium Regane over 255 times for all of the memories, and I'm not talking head that actually didn't do it, which I noticed that a lot of people do, and I actually fucking hate when people do that. Like, they get onto their damn soapbox and it's like, well, I did blah blah blah, and it's like, no, you actually didn't, but I actually beat the pavement with it. I actually love that content, and I know many others that did. Mind you, if you talk about Delirium Regane Savage, I never did that because, to be frank, getting a group together was far too difficult. There were too many dramas, and it wasn't something that I personally engaged in because of it. I don't like drama. I'm boring. I want drama, I'll get HBO. Okay, aside from that, miss me. The main line of the Dalriata dungeon was a masterpiece. The Bozja maps themselves with the Fates was so fun. The 1v1 me bros was awesome. I loved doing that. There was a level of difficulty in this content that was refreshing. You actually had the Doom debuff applied to you that you'd be out regardless of healing, that you messed up successive mechanics. That's something that we've desperately needed for a long time. Actual, accessible, difficult content, and Bozja and Eureka provided that for many, myself included. Not to repeat myself, but Bozja and Eureka were also extremely viable, and in fact Bozja was the fastest leveling method even for this expansion. Work on Relic while leveling. It was double dipping and extremely efficient for those who utilized the opportunity. Now it's literally going to be Blue Mage all the way home. No leveling, just to get to the grind. What an actual shame. That's actually my really feeling. I think people loving this change are so disconnected from the main line of the game that they somehow have never done this content, or they really, really love Blue Mage.